Members of Congress are getting their first chance to publicly question top Pentagon officials on the withdrawal from Afghanistan and what has happened since the end of the 20-year war. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Mark Milley, and Commander of the U.S. Central Command General Kenneth McKenzie all appeared before the Senate panel. CBS News' Natalie Brand has the latest.
Facing questions about the chaotic final weeks in Afghanistan and the suicide bombing that killed 13 American service members and 169 Afghans, top military leaders gave their account before lawmakers for the first time publicly.
We helped build a state, Mr. Chairman, but we could not forge a nation. The fact that the Afghan army that we and our partners trained simply melted away, in many cases without firing a shot, took us all by surprise.
What did we miss?
We absolutely missed the rapid 11-day collapse of the Afghan military and the collapse of their government. I think one of the key factors we missed it for was we pulled our advisors off 3 years ago.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin laid out challenges facing troops on the ground during the withdrawal and evacuation.
Extreme heat, a landlocked country, no government, a highly dynamic situation on the ground, and an active, credible, and lethal terrorist threat.
The defense secretary also testified his judgment remains that staying in Afghanistan past August would have greatly imperiled his people and the U.S. mission.
The Taliban made clear that their cooperation would end on the 1st of September. And as you know, we face grave and growing threats from ISIS-K. Staying longer than we did would have made it even more dangerous for our people and would not have significantly changed the number of evacuees we could get out.
Pentagon leaders also defended what they described as the largest airlift in U.S. history that transported more than 120,000 people, but acknowledged they're still working to evacuate some Americans who want to leave. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
For more on this hearing, I want to bring in Mark Jacobson. He is the former Deputy NATO Senior Civilian Representative for Afghanistan. He's also the brother of CBS Saturday Morning co-host Dana Jacobson. Mark, welcome. Great to see you again. So General Milley repeatedly said there were lots of lessons to be learned from the withdrawal and the war. I want to play some of what he said during the testimony.
I think one of the key factors we missed it for was we pulled our advisors off 3 years ago. And when you pull the advisors out of the units, you no longer can assess things like leadership and will. We can count all the planes, trucks, and automobiles, and cars, and machine guns, and everything else. We can count those from space and all the other kind of intel assets. But you can't measure the human heart with a machine. You got to be there.
So now that we're a few weeks removed from the withdrawal and we can sort of look back, is it a fair assessment to say that a lack of Afghan willpower, as General Milley characterizes it, was a leading cause of the collapse, at least the collapse happening so quickly?
I think General Milley's testimony was very powerful on a number of fronts, and this was particularly important. You know, we saw the collapse of the Afghan National Security Forces, but now what General Milley is pointing out is the decision by the Trump administration a couple of years ago set up a situation where it made it more difficult for us to assess that was going to happen. In other words, not having trainers embedded with the Afghan units meant that we really didn't have a good feel for what they would do once the end was in sight. In other words, once the provisions of the Doha Agreement got into place and that the U.S. forces would actually leave. So I think we're really narrowing down on really a critical element here that Doha, as the witnesses said, really started to lead to that collapse and a lack of confidence the Afghan National Security Forces had in their own government.
Right, and it's interesting getting the whole sort of perspective going that far back. What else stood out to you from the testimony this morning?
A couple of things did. First, of course, there was this issue of the Afghan National Security Forces, not just in terms of not being able to see what was going on in Afghanistan, but also the admission, and I need to caveat this a bit, the admission by General Milley that, look, perhaps we should have considered not mirror imaging, not making the Afghan National Security Forces in our own image. Now, I think that was a blinding flash of the obvious 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. There have been arguments about how we tried to make the Afghan National Security Forces look like the U.S. Army and not look like the type of counterinsurgency force or paramilitary force that was needed for the situation. So I don't think this is new, but I think General Milley is teeing this up as to being one of the major reasons we failed on the security front. But I also need to say that the failures were not just on the military side, and any investigation that fails to look into the State Department and USAID and what went right and what went wrong, if it's just the military stuff, we're going to miss the big picture.
Good point. And Mark, military leadership was also asked about the impact on American credibility following the withdrawal. Secretary Austin said he believes credibility remains solid, while General Milley had a somewhat less optimistic point of view. What did you make of their responses to this point in particular, and how has the whole withdrawal impacted international relations?
I think what you got to see here was a political appointee civilian who serves at the pleasure of the president try and give a non-answer. Try and sidestep the question. General Milley and General Frank McKenzie from CENTCOM were very clear. Doha reduced our credibility, and not just with the Afghans, but internationally. And then the accelerated withdrawal did the same thing, or just exacerbated the problem. So, look, I think this. I think what you can infer from their testimony is that Iran looked at this, China's looked at this, Russia has looked at this, Pakistan has looked at this, and seen that, look, if you press the U.S. in a certain way, they are not going to have the staying power. Now, other people will say, well, they stayed 20 years. No, that's not the point. We're talking about in terms of staying over the last couple of years and seeing the negotiations through to the end. It sends a bad signal, but I think it's a little bit more complicated than saying, well, President Biden leaving has caused a lack of international credibility. This really goes back to the previous administration, and that set the ball rolling. I think what people had hoped is the Biden administration would set things straight and be able to restore that credibility. At least in terms of Afghanistan, they haven't been able to do it.
And Mark, Secretary Austin said they are also working to get Americans and Afghans out of the country, those who still want to leave. What do we know about these efforts now and the state of the refugee process?
I think State Department and the White House and DOD are doing fine in terms of getting the remaining Americans and even the LPRs, the green card holders, lifetime permanent residents, getting them out. The problem is still the SIV candidates and the P2 candidates, so the Afghans who are trying to get out. One, there is still no single person in charge in the U.S. government. It's still spread out. State, Homeland Security, DOD, USAID. This is not the way you run an effective operation. The second piece is the State Department is still bureaucratically wrapped around itself. For example, requiring in-person interviews by Afghans in order to move them through the process. Well, for the Afghans who are still in Afghanistan, this is impossible. And in fact, there's so many times in our history the emigration of Soviet Jews out of the Soviet Union, some issues with Cuba where we've waived these sort of bureaucratic requirements. I don't know why the State Department's not doing it right now, but it's slowing everything down, slowing the visa process down. And there's still legislative problems. Not enough. You have, in addition, you still have private citizens paying to evacuate these people when State Department has sufficient funding and authorization. And it's unclear why this continues to go on this way.
Interesting, especially as you point out that there exists that precedent in speeding this process through. Mark, General Milley, I just want to pivot to another topic quickly. General Milley also addressed his contacts with his Chinese counterpart about heading off potential conflict in those final days of the Trump administration. Let's listen to what he said.
I am certain that President Trump did not intend to attack the Chinese, and it is my directed responsibility. And it was my directed responsibility by the Secretary to convey that intent to the Chinese. My task at that time was to de-escalate. My message, again, was consistent. Stay calm, steady, and de-escalate.
So, Mark, what did you make of the chairman's detailing of what happened behind closed doors on this matter?
It was unambiguous, direct, and clear. I think the reporting that started a couple of weeks ago didn't have the context for what happened. This is General Milley made clear that this is part of his job. He speaks regularly with his counterparts, whether they're Chinese or Russian, and he had the first phone call at the direction of the Secretary of Defense, and the follow-up phone call alongside with the guidance of the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia issues. And I think this is particularly important. This was routine. This was done as part of an overall effort to try and tamp down concerns in the Chinese government that there might be something breaking in the United States. So I think he's put this to rest. I think if people continue to poke him at this, it's really going to be to score their own partisan political points. I see no issues here whatsoever.
Mark Jacobson, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your insight.
My pleasure.